All right, so today I'm doing a Casanova Premium Boxing Glove review. These are in 16 ounces, and this is a colorway that I guess in English it would be turquoise cayman, which is kind of like this, honestly like a reptile skin and turquoise colorway. But this isn't obviously reptile skin. I'll get to that later. But the style is the style. The 16-ounce indicator, which I think is very important, is right here. Now look how small that is. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I wish it was bigger, and I think that it took me a second to try to find it. So it should be a little bit bigger, but ultimately that is what it is. I do want to weigh these right here because my first initial reaction when I first got these was that they felt like they were of weight. They didn't feel too light or too heavy or anything like that. So I'm just going to double check the weight again because I did weigh them earlier and I was kind of shocked at the weight. So here we go. So this one's 15.52, 15.49. And this one's going to be 15.38, maybe 15.4. So it's not terribly off, but it's underweight, which I think is kind of shocking for a Mexican-made glove. We're talking about a glove. A lot of gloves in Mexico, they'd be at 2, sometimes 3 ounces overweight sometimes, at least an ounce. I did a review on the Glass gloves, and they were about an ounce overweight when I tried them out. So the fact that these are about a half ounce under, I think it's pretty much fine. I think that's the case for a lot of gloves, like winning gloves and stuff like that. They're usually about a half an ounce under. So I actually think that weight is pretty good. I don't think it's too bad. I wouldn't be too scared to use these or anything like that. Now, in terms of the leather, we obviously have 100% cowhide leather. And as you can see here, this might be deceiving, but this is, I believe, is just leather as well. This doesn't have the texture of an actual, cayman leather or anything like that, but I think they did a real good job at mimicking what that animal looks like in the skin of it. I think it's a cool touch. I think it's very premium looking, so I actually appreciate that. The leather itself, obviously we have good, nice, thick, supple leather. I mean, this is really nice, supple leather as well. I love the texture of this leather. It feels smooth, but it has a nice, you see how I can't really just slide? It has a nice friction to it as well. I think it's nice and soft, and I think it's very, very durable feeling. Especially, we have this portion here, which looks like it's a different texture of leather. It has more of a bumpy grooves, and it's obviously a silver leather. This is actually seems extremely durable compared to other silver leathers or really shiny leathers that I've seen. This has a really nice feel to it as well. So I give them credit for that. I think that's a really good high quality leather. And I actually enjoy feeling it. Touching it is really nice. So I give them credit for that. The liner we have is obviously a polyester liner like we have in most of these gloves. It's kind of like the standard at this point. And it's black, and it doesn't, there's no special effects here, and I think it's because why would you, at this point. I love this liner. It's one of my favorite liners, and just the feeling of it in general. I think it's moisture wicking, and I think it's, I don't like the feeling of super baggy, extremely baggy type of liner, and this doesn't give me that feeling at all. And I think it does a good job. It's a really good liner. It's not too silky smooth where you might feel like your hands are slipping around. It's not like that. It keeps your hand in the glove, which is a good thing. So it's not the fanciest liner, but it's definitely works. In terms of the padding, this has a 3-layer padding system. Now, 2 of the layers are going to be a natural latex, right? And you're going to see that there's going to be a high density foam inside here as well. So the foam composition of this glove, I guess I'll get into how it performs later, but as you can see how I'm squeezing it, it definitely has a good amount of bounce back a little bit, and it's not exactly the firmest glove. I would tell you it's probably more like a medium soft glove. So keep that in mind for later on when I talk about the padding in more depth. I do want to say the glove style is like a long glove profile. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because in terms of the the sizing of the glove, it's supposed to be a slimmer glove, right? And I agree, and I think it does do a good job. I think it is a slimmer glove, but the length is long. So I do want to compare it to a glove real quick. I'll compare it to the Gladius gloves here. Gladius is a company that is also a Mexican-made glove company, and their gloves are wider, right? Essentially, they say that their gloves are kind of on the bigger side, and they're a little more wide, and that's how they market them. This is how they market a slim glove. This is how they market a more of a wide glove. So just to keep that in mind, both 16 ounces, both probably around the same length in terms of length. But if you see it here, you can see that the length is mostly because the cuff here is so long, opposed to the cuff here, which is the triple cuff, which is a little shorter, right? And you could actually see that the line here actually goes a little higher. This backhand is a little smaller than this one is. So in terms of the length, most of it really comes from the wrist. So it doesn't necessarily feel like a long glove. So in that regard, I think that they did a good job in terms of that. I was really shocked at it because I didn't know how I was going to feel about the length of this cuff, and I'm actually enjoying it. And I liked how it feels. So they did a decent job with that, and it feels compact on the hand. So I give them credit. Now the style of the glove itself, like I said, it kind of has that turquoise colorway, and it has that nice silver, and obviously you have that cool leather here that's going to mimic the Cayman. But in terms of the style, we have the glitter laces. Not the biggest fan of glitter laces, but that's just a preference of mine. That doesn't mean anything. A lot of people might like glitter laces, but for me, I don't. It's kind of rough, and it's a little scratchy on the skin, so that's the reason why. So yeah, you can see here the laces are not very long as well. They're beautiful looking, but sometimes I'd much rather you just put up a nice long regular lace on the glove. It's not a huge deal because you could just, like I say all the time, you can get a pair of laces yourself and then relace your gloves, and it costs almost nothing. So that's just me nitpicking. As you can see in the glove, we also have welted seams. Now this is a good one. I love welted seams on gloves. I think it adds a real nice classy look to the glove. And these are really tight. I mean, almost like you could almost not really notice them that much because of how tight they are. And they're around the glove, the entire glove essentially, all around this portion. It's really good. So it's like a reinforced seam. I like that because it makes it feel like the glove is more durable. Sometimes you'll see just in those areas, there's pulling of the stitching, and you'll see the pulling of the stitching and things like that. I like how the welted seams just make this look so much cleaner than other gloves do. So I love welted seam gloves, ultimately. I will say that there's a cool little patch here. You see this says Casanova here. This has a nice double cuff. Now the double cuff here is obviously bigger on the bottom and kind of higher, a little smaller on the top. It's not too much of a difference in terms of, it kind of feels like it's in the middle, but this is a little bigger. I like that they have an embroidered logo here. I love that. I love this kind of stuff. Gloves need to do this more often. This is extremely durable, and it makes the glove feel like it's going to be like it's going to last forever almost with this type of attention to detail. The fact that this doesn't have a logo on top does not bother me. And the reason why is because I'd rather it not have a logo. Sometimes I like the fact that a glove is plain. Sometimes I like to take the logos off the gloves because I like the look of them. So in this case, I really like the look of the glove. Now, if they did add a logo, I'm sure it would still look great. I know the new Glez Premium Gloves, they have the embroidery here, and then they have an embroidery G right in the middle, and that looks fantastic. But I'm actually okay with the look of these gloves, and ultimately I think it's fantastic. Now, this tag being here, I would say probably doesn't need to be here. You know what I mean? This is kind of like where, you might punch somebody. It doesn't feel like it's going to do anything, but ultimately it's kind of an annoying spot. So, why not change that? Ultimately, like, it's silly to be here. I don't know why that's there. Yeah. So also another thing that I just noticed, hold on. So you can see the 16-ounce indicator here is on this side of the glove. On this glove is on this side, right? And on this glove, it's on the thumb side. I don't know why it's on two different sides of each glove. That's super nitpicky, by the way, but it just is what it is. I need to say something about it. In terms of the wrist, it has little padding on the back, but it's kind of firm. So I would say that yeah, it's pretty firm, but it's thin. So because of it, you're able to pretty much bend it, which is okay because it keeps the wrist slim, which is kind of like what I like about gloves is keeping the wrist slim. On the inside of the wrist here is a lot of padding, right? Which is what a lot of Mexican gloves do. They put a lot of soft padding here. And that really does make sure that your wrist is super protected, you know what I mean? So it does keep your hands protected and in a fist position very, very well. So I like that about Mexican gloves. Also, this thumb, I would say, is a large thumb. It's a nice thumb, though. It doesn't look like, it doesn't have the multiple designs, but I don't think you really need that. I know we've been getting kind of used to a lot of gloves that have the, the striped designs on here, but it's not a big deal. You see that they have a detached thumb portion here. It's not just one smooth motion. And I'll give you an example. This one doesn't have it. So you can see the Gladius gloves is just smooth straight through. This one obviously has a detached thumb. Do I know why they do it? Not really. Ultimately, I don't know if it's even really, it doesn't really feel like it's detached or anything, but maybe they do that for the styling. I don't know. Yeah, so that being said, I want to get to the stitching of the glove. The stitching is really, really nice. I would say it's double stitched everywhere around the glove here, you can see. And there is no real big areas that I'm saying, okay, it's a problem. I think that there was probably one little issue here, and there was like a thread here, but I cut it, and it was hanging, but I cut it off. It wasn't a humongous deal. But even the double stitching right here is pretty nice, and even the double stitching on the back portion here is nice. It's like really reinforced in terms of stitching. So yeah, I think that the stitching is actually really, really nice on the glove, which is surprising. Sometimes you get them, no matter what, you always feel like you're going to get something wrong, but this one's pretty solid. Like you see right there, there's a little bit of a hanging on this one as well. Not a huge deal, but yeah. So in terms of this palm portion, I want to talk about the grip bar. I would say it's a firm grip bar, and I would say it's kind of like in, right there in the middle in terms of the width, the thickness. So it goes all across the hand right here. It looks like it might have a little bit of an angle, but I can't really tell for sure. And it has just like this, I like this grip bar. I actually could feel it a lot when I put the hands in the glove. Now, in terms of the air holes, there's none up on the top here, but there's some on the bottom here. A lot, I think. I'm going to count like 6 or so. And there's like 2 layers right here. I don't know if you could see them. So that's good. And they also have air holes on the inner portion of the palm here, on the inner portion of the thumb. So that's good as well. As you can see, the thumb attachment is blue. And they both look like they're in a good position as well, so that's also a good thing. So keep that in mind. In terms of the inner hand compartment, I'm going to say that these gloves they feel like an average, Mexican glove. It's not the silkiest, but it's comfortable. It's comfortable, and it keeps my hand in place. Now, in terms of my hand positioning, this is what it looks like when I'm not opening my hands or I'm not making a fist, right? So essentially, my hands are kind of doing this. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of like half in and half out in terms of the essential, how it comes. Some gloves come automatically, your palms automatically open. Some gloves come and it's already in a fist position. This one's in the middle, I think. Or maybe a little more open. I guess more on the open side. Now I open my hands and I could open it up all the way like that. Or I can keep it in the middle, or I could open it up, or I can keep it in the middle, or I could open it up, right? This is the fist. So I guess it's closer to an open palm than it is to a fist position. So open palm, fist position, right? So I think inside the hand compartment, there's not a ton of room. It's not like my hands are swimming around, but it feels snug. But obviously I could put a nice knuckle guard on here and put hand wraps on here. Absolutely no problem. It gives me enough space. If I were to push my hands here, you can see that there's a lot of different space here. The glove still feels snug, but there's probably a good inch plus of extra space on the side. There's definitely space on the fingertip compartment here. If you have longer fingers, I don't see any problems with that. The thumb is actually super comfortable. It has like this felt kind of feeling on the outside of the thumb that is kind of caressing the back end of my thumb here. And I think that's extremely comfortable. I like that. What else? I would say the grip bar on the inside is kind of the same thing, right? It's a smaller type of secondary grip bar that's just covered up by the stitching, maybe the welt to seam, and it has like a felt feeling over it, so it's right here. And I think that acts as a really, really nice secondary grip bar. It kind of reminds me of a new sporting grip bar, a secondary grip bar, where they have that kind of nice felt feeling there. I mean, a lot of them do it. I'm not just new sporting, but I'm just saying that's kind of what just came to my mind right off the bat. This portion of the glove might at first feel a little bit tight because it's kind of small here, and most gloves kind of come a little further down, and you can see that it kind of has a smaller portion here. I didn't really have a problem with that, but it's something that I do want to mention. In terms of the thumb itself, there is a little bit of pulling, but I don't feel any jamming whatsoever in this thumb. It's a very protective thumb, and it's padded all the way around. So you can see that there might be a little bit of a pull here, but I don't feel any discomfort at all, so that's nice as well. And the left glove, the same thing. Same thing with the left glove. So I just want to put that out there. In terms of the padding, like I was talking about before, look how soft that is. I'm saying that this is kind of like I want to say medium to soft, but it's very, very responsive. It's very responsive. I think it's like I don't know, it kind of gives me a little bit of a bounce back when I'm punching with it, which is what some people like, right? This punch surface itself is I love it. I think it's really nice. It's nice. It gives me a nice punch surface here. It's a little rounded, not a big deal. And in terms of, you know, the angling of it, it's not too overly angled where you're like thinking that the glove is basically trying to make you punch a certain way. This one, I love it on the bags. I love it on everything. So in terms of like I feel it, like the feedback of it is so nice to me. It sinks in really well. Now I did try the glass gloves out. I did a review on them, and I thought that it was like a medium to firm padding. And when I talked to them, they said that the foam composition is pretty much pretty much the same, very similar. But this is obviously softer. But at the end of the day, the glass gloves were 17 ounces, a little over 17 ounces, and these ones are about 15 and a half ounces. So they're about an ounce and a half away from each other in terms of weight. So that might have something to do with the fact that the latex might feel different. But that's just an assumption. I'm not sure if it's true, but ultimately this is a softer padded glove. I would say that my hands do sink in a little bit when I go full power. And I don't know how your sparring partners might deal with it, but I've seen worse gloves used in sparring. So sometimes, you know, there's really nothing you could say about it if there's a glove that's a latex glove and a polyurethane glove and stuff like that, because it's not a horsehair glove. And essentially, if it's an all-around training glove, which of these are, there's not much I can say if someone wants to use them. And I actually don't mind someone using them. I'm just trying to, you know, some people just might, you know, some people have a problem with, you know, Mexican gloves and sparring and stuff, but I think they're fine. And this one, yeah, a little bit on the softer side, but it doesn't mean it's gonna kill somebody. Sometimes a glove could be too hard and it could be really bad for sparring, you know, so it is what it is. I will say, in terms of the pricing of these gloves, they're $250. I got these from Joe's Boxing. And I want to say that $250 is fine. It's fine to me. I think it's perfectly fine. I would buy this for $250, no problem. I think this is actually a really good price for $250, all things considered. So I tell people, you know, Mexican gloves are just like some of them are so high priced. They're so great. They're such a great quality glove, though. That's the thing. So I understand why they're high priced. But in terms of, you know, these Casanovas and stuff like that, you know, I think that they're doing the right thing, and they have it right there. They have the price, you know, and the glass as well. The price is right where it needs to be. I think that they're doing a really good job. And if you really want a good Mexican quality glove, this is probably the one to do it. Performance-wise, this is like one of those really, really good gloves on the mitts. I think this is probably the best on the mitts, to be honest with you. But on the bags, I had a lot of fun. And, you know, even when I tried a little bit of sparring with it, I had a lot of fun as well, you know. But I prefer in sparring a little bit of a wider glove. So I'd prefer something a little bit on the wider side because of defensive purposes. But I understand a lot of people like compact, more of a compact, slim profile glove. And this is probably going to check the box for you. So ultimately, my final thoughts are these are fantastic gloves, guys. There's not much I could say about them in a negative way. I think the only thing I think I could have said something negative about was probably the 16-ounce indicator, which you could barely see, and the laces, which are not my favorite because they're too short. But other than that, I mean, you're looking at a glove that is, you know, pretty fantastic, and I think a lot of people will really, really love. So that's my review.